Hi everyone, SaneMain here. This video is brought to you by a donation from James. He didn't send me a specific topic, so I wanted to cover a Reddit post with the same title as this video, which is called Life is Longer When You're Single. And the person posting there, named Calm Elk, has this to say, and I quote, "Life feels longer when you're single. I was supposed to spend my life from 30 to 60 with the woman and kids, but now I'm planning on being single for the rest of my life. Something doesn't feel right. It's like that time period isn't supposed to be spent all alone. It just feels too long. I'm trying to keep myself busy. It's much harder to live life on autopilot when you're not working so much and having to live up to society's expectations. I'm constantly able to have a lot of time alone to think, and I can't just escape my thoughts. In MGTOW, we say that married men die a lot earlier because they want to escape marriage. I don't want to escape life or get married, because I'm bored. But how do you deal with life feeling longer when you're trapped inside your own head?" Well, James, thanks for the donation, and answering Calm Elk's question would make a great topic. I'll cover it in just a moment. But let me first tell everyone about today's sponsor, the Brave browser. Zuck the cuck drinks water like a duck, but he also drinks your data. So tell him and Google to shove your data up their schwing-schwangs by downloading the Brave browser. It's free, blocks online advertising, and protects your privacy and data from evil tech companies. You only see ads if you want to see them, and you give cryptocurrency for your attention. Don't let Zuck use you to make a buck. Download Brave by clicking on the link down below. Anyways, now back to Clown World. The first thing that stood out for me from Calm Elk was when he said that it's much harder to live life on autopilot when you're not working so much. But why would anyone want to live their life on autopilot unless they were scared to think about reality and think for themselves? The way that I've gotten over this idea of living the next 20, 30, 40 years, etc. all alone is by filling up my life with more purpose than I can ever achieve. And that's when life doesn't feel all that empty anymore. How you do that is up to you. I've known the answer for this question in my life for quite some time. But another person that asks the same question is Jordan Peterson. He says that life is short, but it's also long. What are you going to do for the next 30 or 40 years without a family? He says there are very few people out there like that, but he doesn't tell you why they are like that, and if you can become like that too. Calm Milk, you're going to have to spend the second half of your life with no family Christmas, no birthday parties with the family either. It's liberating, sad, and scary at the same time. Liberating because you can do with your life as you wish. Sad because you're the end of your genetic line, if you care about such things. And scary because you're going to have to face an existential crisis with regards to finding a new purpose, which seems to be what you're doing right now. When I was in my late 20s, I saw two paths in life. One life lived in an interesting way, doing outlandish things and becoming a professional shit disturber. Or the other life, which is all about family and settling down. When I was proposed to by a woman, I said yes, and then changed my mind and said no, and kicked the whore to the door. I didn't think I was ready for a family at that point, but thought that someday I would. Living with women also drove me absolutely insane. I had to take tranquilizers a couple times to calm me down. I thought I hadn't found the right person yet. I thought I wanted kids, but now I realize I would stress so much about them that it would probably ruin my life. The same with stressing over a wife. Stress has been so bad for my health, so I can only imagine how horrible the pain would be if I were to be married and have a family. I enjoy peace and quiet above all else. I'm not anxious and lonely the way that Jordan Peterson appears to be. I've hated birthdays and Christmas and holidays in general my entire life, and even convinced one woman that I was with to not celebrate them. I find people stressful, and I'm the type of person that if I don't get a lot of time alone, I go absolutely bonkers. So for me, that traditional life wouldn't have worked. For me, the torture of being with people I don't want to be with extends time and makes me feel irritated. But doing what I want when I want makes me feel free and speeds up my time. That is, if I'm not working on something. Calm Milk, I think life is too long when you're not using your brain enough. Search for a purpose that only you can find. Another thing you said that was concerning is that you actually have a lot of time to think alone, and you can't escape your thoughts. You would certainly escape your thoughts by getting your schwing-schwank to feel the embrace of some thought's cooch. But now that she's not there, you're emotionally naked with a heart-on, and some clown is chasing you down the street with a samurai knife, trying to turn you into an emotional eunuch. In the peanut gallery below your words, Calm Elk, on Reddit, there's a lot of wisdom. One guy says that a man's purpose was to get married, to build a house, have a family, and build a legacy. He was on autopilot. Another person in the comment section says that humans are social creatures and typically need companionship and communication to be fulfilled. He postulates that the primary source of this is through relationships and family, So if you're missing a significant other or kids, you feel like something is off for the average guy. But if you're not the average guy and you want to be alone, then that's a different story. Calm Elk, learn to enjoy your passions by yourself. If your life is too long, then you need to speed up time by doing things that make time fly by. Get some hobbies. Start a YouTube channel. Work on a house or a car. A few guys in the comment section even say play video games because they help pass the time. Or you can find constructive things that you're passionate about and set goals for yourself that you'll never be able to accomplish. Then when somehow you magically do accomplish them, then you could set your heights on your next lofty goal. I found that setting goals that are both selfish and selfless at the same time is the best way to go. I'm selfish because I work to make money for myself. But I'm also selfless as a content creator because I've sacrificed years of my life doing this and suffered when I didn't have to. The suffering adds meaning and purpose. It makes it all worthwhile. Suffering for some big goal is good, but not too much where it wrecks your health and makes you lose your mind. I know that at some point when I stop or slow down making daily content like I have for almost 7 years now, I'm going to have a lot of time to fill. I will experience what you're going through unless I challenge myself to work on something else. I'll get depressed if I'm not working so much or very little. If you're not working very much, then you haven't found the right thing to work on yet. Once you find the right thing you want to do, you'll never stop working. Many people on their deathbed say that they wish they worked less and spent more time with their families. But if you're anything like myself and have felt suicidal pain that was worse than death itself, then you would have felt bad for not accomplishing the things you wanted in life. That was me. I didn't have regrets on not having a family or anything like that. A friend of mine told me recently that if I had a family, it probably would have been the death of me by now. And he's absolutely right. So Calm Elk, first figure out what type of man you are. Are you the type that can deal with the family and kids, or the type that can't? Then figure out what you can do in life that you don't get tired of, that gives you a greater meaning or purpose. Something worth giving your life for. Remember that in the past, many men didn't marry until they gathered enough resources well into their mid to late 30s. So a lot of guys had no purpose, so they joined the army and went off to fight in wars. Because again, most men's desires were to have a family, so what was a man supposed to do if he couldn't afford one? He gave his life for his king and country instead. That was his purpose, and countries that convinced young men of that purpose prospered, while those that didn't failed. Is it any wonder that in some Muslim countries they encourage their young men to fight in jihad? If a man doesn't have a purpose when it comes to family and reproduction, then throughout history, such men were taken advantage of by their kings and rulers to help them grow their empires by fighting for them, as men were in a unique period in time. We don't have to fight and die for our countries, and we don't have to get married and have children. We are free to do whatever we want for the first time in history, and we have the sum of all human knowledge minus what's at Area 51 in our pockets. And yet most guys are bored without a woman in their arms. Doesn't anyone else see the tragedy in all of this? Men in past generations would have used surrogacy to have kids to have a legacy. They would think that we're insane because we have more freedom than they ever could imagine, and it wasn't good enough for us. The problem is pain and suffering. If you don't feel any pain and suffering, i.e. nagging, whining, and complaining from a woman in your life, then you can't appreciate the sex as much. When you're not in a relationship and you don't have to suffer, your mind creates suffering and depression for you. Because let's face it, the more you squirm, the more you learn. Lessons are only reinforced through pain and suffering. If you're free from the pain that women inflict on your heart and mind, and you're free from the pain from working hard on something that brings you purpose, then you're not facing any resistance, and your mental and emotional ability is starting to atrophy, and mental illness and instability will follow. For each man, finding that right balance is a personal thing. Some guys can sit and do almost nothing every day and their minds are fine. Others, like myself, if I'm not working for 4 or 5 hours a day at least, my mind starts to stray. I think the biggest lesson I've learned over the last 6 months is what happens to a man that gets married and has kids, not because he wanted to or because he could handle it, but because of peer pressure. I met one such man a long time ago, and having raised a family brought him to a terrible mental illness in his golden years. I now realize that my mind is very similar, and if I followed his footsteps over the course of 30 years, it would have destroyed me. But of course, if he had never married, then some poor woman out there would have turned into a spinster and her life would have been over. His life and mental health had to end so her life and the life of his children could begin. Now he can't seem to enjoy the weddings and graduations for his own kids, because his mind fell apart. Life might not have been long and lonely for him before he got married. I don't know. But I certainly do know that his life is ruined now because he spent many years suffering mentally because of the mistakes that he was actually pressured into. Some men have a personality that's too intense and analytical for marriage. One last thing before I end this video. I've been thinking of a way to not only release one book, but release a bunch of them. because all my videos are scripted and I have them all in text format. So I could start publishing all my content in a book format. Maybe a book with 200 pages or roughly 40 videos at a time, considering that each one is roughly 5 pages in typed length. That means I already have 60 books written at 200 pages each. In case the internet ever goes down, I don't think it would be a bad idea to print up all my books and have many copies floating around. But first I want to see if there's some interest before I start to do the first videos from back in 2013 and 14. You never know if the internet ever disappears and goes away forever through some sort of civilization collapse. But books, especially if they're multiple copies, stand a better chance of survival versus video files and content on platforms like YouTube. I would only expect to make $5 or $10 a copy after the printing cost, and it would ensure the survival of my content for a long time to come, and against real censorship if it ever showed up. So let me know in the comments section, and if there's enough interest, I'll start with the first volume. If there isn't enough interest, maybe I'll make a book with only the most viewed videos. Anyways, that's it for today. Thanks again to James for the donation, and I hope you enjoyed this topic. Don't forget to smash the like button the way that Call Milk is on the verge of an existential crisis because he doesn't have a slut of his own to smash. Bang the bell and check out the mystery link. Follow me on BitChute, Twitter, and Facebook to get tomorrow's video today. Subscribe to me on Minds and Gab to get the video for the day after tomorrow. This channel's been demonetized, so if you want to get back at corporate censors, demonetize them by taking away their ad dollars by installing the Brave browser. Link is down below. It also helps me out and you get cryptocurrency for viewing ads as well. You can also help me out through Subscribestar. Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills, and remember, a red pill a day keeps the drooling cankle biters trying to suck your blood away. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.